Welcome, gentlemen. What does it really mean to be the kind of man who cannot be boxed in or defined by the ordinary rules of human behavior? The Sigma male stands as one of the rarest figures in the spectrum of personality, often misunderstood, yet endlessly fascinating. He is the black swan of human behavior, appearing in ways no one expects, untouched by the beaten paths most people obediently follow, while the majority move in predictable cycles, living by the scripts handed down through culture and expectation. The Sigma male's life is a reminder that not every story needs to be written by society. He doesn't measure himself by the applause or approval of others. His strength is rooted in his ability to live from the inside out, guided by his own compass, rather than the maps drawn by someone else's hand. That's what makes him so hard to predict and almost impossible to control. The systems, trends, and social rules that bind so many people hold no weight for him, because he does not see them as foundations of safety. He sees them as cages. And if you've ever felt out of place, if you've wondered why you can't bend yourself to fit the molds everyone else accepts, take comfort. That difference isn't weakness. It's a sign that you carry within you the rare spirit of independence that refuses to be captured. By the way, tell me, where are you watching this right now? And what time is it for you? I'd love to know how this message is reaching you in your own world. Remember, the world often fears what it cannot control, but history is shaped by those who stand unshaken in their truth. The Sigma male proves that real freedom isn't earned through acceptance, but through the unshakable courage to remain yourself. Let's dive in. Number 1. He disrupts patterns people believe are universal. This is where the Sigma male naturally unsettles people, by breaking the rules that most assume apply to everyone. He doesn't play by the scripts handed down by culture, tradition, or the group mindset. From an early age, most people are taught to follow a predictable path: study hard, land a good job, climb the ladder, buy into the lifestyle everyone else is chasing. But the Sigma male questions the very structure. And this isn't rebellion just for the thrill of it. It's clarity. He recognizes that what works for the majority doesn't always lead to freedom. And for him, freedom matters more than anything. Think of the discomfort that arises when someone refuses to participate in a tradition. At a family gathering, everyone may expect you to act or speak in a certain way. The Sigma male doesn't bow to that performance. He speaks in his own rhythm, sometimes fewer words, but carrying more weight. People find it strange because it doesn't follow the social rhythm they're used to. Yet in noticing him, they're also forced to notice their own patterns. The workplace is no different. Office politics tell you that success comes from pleasing the right people, keeping appearances, and playing along. But the Sigma male carves his path by relying on competence and quiet results. He's aware of the games being played, but he refuses to let them dictate his moves. That alone unsettles people, because they suddenly realize their usual tactics, flattery, gossip, manipulation, don't work on him. His resistance to control doesn't come from stubbornness, but from detachment. He simply doesn't cling to the rewards or fear the punishments that others are chained to. Promotions, recognition, criticism, or exclusion, they don't bind him. And it's this inner independence that leaves people off balance, because the usual levers of influence fall apart in his presence. You see it in everyday situations too. When friends pressure each other into certain habits or lifestyles, the Sigma male listens, observes, and then quietly goes in a different direction without justification. His silence says more than words. I'm not here to repeat your script. That simple refusal to conform sparks both admiration and unease. He becomes the living reminder that most rules aren't universal. They're just habits. And when one man breaks them with confidence, the illusion of control cracks open for everyone else to see. Number 2. He thrives in psychological ambiguity. Where most people feel uncomfortable, the Sigma male feels alive. Most of the world craves certainty, clear answers, obvious roles, well-defined boxes. They want life neatly packaged, easy to read. But Sigma males operate differently. They don't just tolerate the gray areas of life. They thrive in them. Unstable ground, unclear rules, unpredictable dynamics. What others see as confusion or even danger, the Sigma male sees as opportunity. Think about it. Most people panic when there's no guidebook, no obvious leader, no clear direction. But this is where the Sigma male comes alive. He knows that power often hides in the shadows where the crowd is too afraid to look. Take the workplace, for example. When leadership suddenly changes or company goals shift overnight, most colleagues scramble for answers, clinging to whatever seems safe. The Sigma male doesn't panic. He studies the silence. He watches body language. He listens between the words. He learns more from what people aren't saying than from what they are. That's why he's so unpredictable. If you can't read him, you can't control him. He refuses to play the same game as everyone else because he already sees it for what it is. Instead, he moves at his own timing, makes decisions on his own terms, and often takes routes no one else even imagined. Just imagine this: a circle of friends wrapped up in endless drama, hidden agendas, and constant gossip. Most people would be swept right into the chaos without even realizing it. But the Sigma male, he doesn't get pulled down by the noise. Instead, he quietly studies every motive in the room, reading people like an open book. And while the others are scrambling for dominance, fighting battles that don't even matter, he's already several steps ahead, moving in silence toward his own objectives. What separates him from the rest is that he doesn't need absolute clarity before taking action. He accepts that life is messy, that people are unpredictable, and that the idea of control is often nothing more than an illusion. While most cling desperately to certainty, the Sigma male has trained himself to breathe comfortably in the fog of uncertainty, and he knows how to use it to his advantage. That is why you cannot pin him down. He thrives in the very places where most people crumble. Number 3. He is both transparent and unreadable. The Sigma male exists in a paradox that few can master. He reveals just enough to be seen, yet never enough to be fully known. And this creates a presence that is magnetic. People feel as though they understand him, but at the same time, he remains a mystery they cannot solve. He has perfected the delicate balance between openness and untouchability. He gives others enough to keep the connection real, but he always keeps the deepest layers of himself beyond reach. Imagine sitting down for a conversation with him. He listens intently, replies with clarity, and shares bits of his own life that make the exchange feel genuine. But when you walk away, you realize something. You don't actually know much about him at all. This isn't secrecy, nor is it dishonesty. It's control. He decides which parts of himself deserve exposure and which parts remain locked away. Think of it like a beautifully designed house with wide glass windows. You can see inside the living room, admire the layout, even notice the movement of people within. But behind those doors are private rooms, untouchable, hidden, and closed to outsiders. That is the Sigma male, open enough to be approachable, yet private enough to remain untouchable. This balance isn't just intriguing, it's a form of quiet power. Most people reveal too much without realizing it. They spill their insecurities, their fears, their weaknesses, and sooner or later, someone will use that against them. The Sigma male never makes that mistake. He ensures that no matter how close someone thinks they are, there's always a part of him that cannot be reached. This very trait makes him compelling in friendships, relationships, and even professional settings. People are drawn in, desperate to figure him out, wanting to go deeper, but the more they try, the more they realize he cannot be mapped. His transparency is deliberate. His unreadability is his shield. And in a world where everyone is oversharing and broadcasting every detail of their lives for attention, he proves that mystery is strength, not weakness. He teaches us that you can allow people to see you without ever allowing them to own you. Number 4. He transforms observation into both shield and weapon. For the Sigma male, watching isn't passive. It's a calculated strategy. Observation is his way of protecting himself and gaining the upper hand. Where most people rush into situations with emotions exposed and defenses down, he takes a step back, quietly collecting information. He notices the small tells, the nervous fidget when someone lies, the forced tone in a voice trying too hard to sound confident, or the quick flash of envy in someone's eyes. Tiny signals that most overlook become his private map of human behavior. He uses this knowledge to see not just what people are saying, but what they're really communicating beneath the surface. This is why observation works as both shield and sword. It protects him, because he spots threats long before they can touch him. Picture him walking into a workplace filled with politics and power games. While everyone else is distracted by chatter and gossip, he's silently mapping the alliances, noticing who undermines who, catching the subtle patterns others miss. By doing this, he makes sure he's never blindsided. But observation isn't only defense, it's also attack. Once he's gathered enough data, he knows when to move, and more importantly, how to move. Just like a skilled chess player who waits for the right opening, the Sigma male uses patience as a weapon. He might stay quiet while others brag and reveal their strategies. Then, at the perfect moment, he makes a single decisive move that shifts the entire game in his favor. And in personal relationships, this skill is even more powerful. While most people get lost in words and empty promises, he focuses on consistency. Actions tell him everything he needs to know. He notices the friend who never shows up when it counts, the partner who makes excuses instead of commitments. Those subtle patterns tell him more than charm ever could. What makes this ability so effective is its invisibility. People don't even realize they're being read. They underestimate him because of his silence, never knowing that behind it lies careful calculation. The Sigma male reminds us that the strongest moves are often made without noise. By turning observation into both shield and weapon, he stays multiple steps ahead, leaving others puzzled by how he always seems to know more than he should. Number 5. He rejects emotional dependency. Unlike most, he is impossible to trap through neediness or fear of loss. While many people build connections by leaning on each other for comfort, validation, or security, the Sigma male operates from a different place entirely. They crave constant reassurance, proof that they are loved, valued, and appreciated. For the Sigma male, this kind of emotional dependency feels alien. He doesn't live with the fear of losing someone, nor does he cling to others in order to feel secure in who he is. His self-worth is self-contained, and because of that, he never hands the keys to his peace over to anyone else. He understands a deep truth. The moment your sense of value depends on another person, you've already surrendered control of your life. That's why his independence is not just important to him, it is sacred. Picture a relationship where one partner constantly fishes for attention, anxiously seeking validation through messages, overreacting when plans shift, or making decisions based on the fear of being left behind. Most people get caught in this cycle. Some try to soothe, others lash out in frustration, but both end up pulled into the same emotional tug of war. The Sigma male, on the other hand, approaches it differently. He observes without being consumed. He doesn't rush to rescue or absorb someone else's emotions because his own stability doesn't rely on theirs. His actions are intentional, not reactions to pressure. This resistance to emotional dependency doesn't end in romance. It extends into friendships, family, and even work environments. A colleague might try to manipulate him by making loyalty feel conditional, or a friend may attempt to guilt him into doing favors. He sees straight through those tactics and responds with precision. If helping aligns with his values, he will do it willingly, but he never bends out of fear, guilt, or neediness. And this doesn't mean he lacks empathy. Quite the opposite, because he isn't controlled by insecurity. He is capable of deeper, more authentic connection. He gives freely, without hidden strings. And when he offers support, it's because he truly means it, not because he feels trapped or obligated. People cannot ensnare him with emotional hooks, because he has chosen to live without any hooks of his own. For the Sigma male, this independence is both power and peace. By refusing to anchor his identity to someone else's affection or approval, he becomes untouchable. No one can corner him with guilt, with neediness, or with fear of abandonment. While others fight for control through emotion, he moves with clarity, calm, and complete self-reliance. Emotional freedom is his default state, making him someone who cannot be manipulated and cannot be contained. Number 6. He reads contradictions in people like an open book and shapes his boundaries accordingly. Most people take words at face value. They hear a promise and assume it reflects truth. They hear declarations of loyalty and believe them without hesitation. But the Sigma male operates differently. He doesn't just listen to words. He watches for the gaps between words and actions. He notices when someone says one thing, but does another. These contradictions aren't brushed aside. To him, they are signals, clues that reveal who a person really is. And instead of ignoring them, he uses those signals to redraw his boundaries. Imagine a coworker who constantly boasts about being a team player, yet repeatedly steals credit for others' work. Many people might notice the hypocrisy, feel resentment, but still give the person the benefit of the doubt, hoping they'll eventually change. The Sigma male doesn't waste time hoping. He recognizes the pattern immediately, adjusts his strategy, and protects his position. He shares less responsibility, keeps his work documented, and ensures no one can take advantage of him. This same principle carries into friendships and relationships. A friend might talk endlessly about loyalty, but vanish when things get inconvenient. A partner might make promises of commitment while their actions say otherwise. The Sigma male notices. He steps back, recalibrates, and decides exactly how much trust, time, or energy that person deserves moving forward. What sets him apart is precision. He doesn't react emotionally or impulsively. He doesn't explode or accuse. Instead, he quietly collects the data, processes the pattern, and then acts with intentional clarity. People often mistake his calmness for passivity, but they fail to see that his composure is his greatest weapon. Long before anyone realizes a boundary has been tested, he has already mapped out the behavior, predicted the outcome, and positioned himself beyond reach of harm. By treating contradictions as guideposts rather than inconveniences, the Sigma male turns awareness into power. He preserves his energy, his peace, and his time, while still engaging with the world on his own terms. Others often drown in confusion, betrayal, or misplaced trust. But he moves through life guided by clarity, steady boundaries, and a quiet understanding that keeps him untouchable. Number 7. He does not measure his worth by anyone's approval. This is another chain of control he refuses to wear. Most people spend their lives chasing approval, building their identities around praise, recognition, and validation. They feel small when their efforts go unnoticed. They feel crushed when criticism comes their way. It's a heavy burden because it means other people's opinions decide your value. The Sigma male rejects this completely. His worth isn't external. It doesn't come from applause, compliments, or social recognition. His sense of value is internal, self-generated, and untouchable. Imagine a workplace where praise is scarce, handed out selectively like scraps. Most people bend themselves out of shape, changing their behavior, compromising their values, just to be noticed. The Sigma male doesn't play that game. The Sigma man refuses to play that endless game of approval seeking. His focus isn't on applause, recognition, or how others might react to him. It's firmly rooted in clarity, results, and his own personal standards. He acts because it aligns with his values, because it feels right to him, not because someone might cheer him on. Whether others admire him, envy him, or even misunderstand him, it doesn't matter. His actions are never motivated by the desire to be liked. In personal relationships, this detachment from approval makes him especially difficult to manipulate. Many people try to control others using emotional tricks, through guilt, flattery, or exaggerated praise. They assume a compliment will change his behavior, or that criticism will push him into compliance. But the Sigma male doesn't bend to that kind of pressure. His decisions come from his own reasoning, from his clear understanding of what is right for him, not from the shifting expectations of others. And this doesn't mean he is cold or incapable of connection. Quite the opposite. He is deeply capable of loyalty, empathy, and meaningful bonds. But those qualities are offered on his terms, given freely, never forced out of him by obligation or by someone else's agenda. He does not let the craving to be accepted dictate how he moves. By refusing to measure himself through the eyes of others, the Sigma male severs one of the most powerful tools of control. Praise doesn't inflate his ego into arrogance, and criticism doesn't crush him into doubt. His stability comes from within, from a self-definition so strong that it cannot be rewritten by anyone else's opinion. He understands the truth. The moment you allow other people to assign your value, you've already given away your power. For him, power is not about controlling others. It begins with mastery over himself. And this is why he remains untouchable. Number 8. He anticipates power plays and sidesteps them before they even take shape. Most people only realize they've been manipulated after it's too late, once the trap has already sprung and left them frustrated or angry. The Sigma male, however, sees the game long before the pieces are even on the board. He notices the small cues, the patterns of behavior, and the subtle shifts that signal an attempt at control. And because he sees them early, he steps aside before the trap can ever close. Picture a workplace where colleagues are constantly jockeying for influence, undercutting one another to climb the ladder. Most people get tangled in the tension, reacting emotionally, or even joining the drama without realizing it. The Sigma male approaches differently. He studies the room carefully. He pays attention not just to what is said, but how it is said, tone, timing, body language. He sees through the disguise of false praise, recognizing when a compliment is really a setup to shift blame. Instead of reacting in the moment, he quietly repositions himself so that the move never lands. By the time others realize their plan has failed, he's already 2 steps ahead. In personal relationships, this skill is just as sharp. If someone tries to weaponize vulnerability, guilt, or obligation, he notices immediately. He doesn't overreact, but he doesn't fall for it either. Instead, he adjusts, sometimes pulling back his energy, sometimes withdrawing his boundaries, sometimes disappearing altogether. Whatever the adjustment, it ensures no one can trap him through emotional games. What makes this ability so powerful is its subtlety. Most people underestimate him because of his calm demeanor. They think he is passive or unaware. But beneath the surface, he is running constant calculations, mapping outcomes, predicting patterns, and securing his position. Long before a power play even solidifies, he has already dismantled it. This foresight grants him freedom, while others scramble to gain the upper hand, burning energy in manipulation or conflict. He simply opts out. He refuses to play games he never agreed to, and by doing so, he stays in control of his path. True power, he shows us, isn't about reacting loudly or fighting for dominance. It's about moving so strategically that no one else can touch you. In a world of hidden agendas, this makes him untouchable. Number 9. He doesn't compete where the noise is loudest. He chooses arenas where he alone sets the terms. Most people believe success comes from being the loudest voice in the room, from outshining others in visibility, or from battling to grab attention first. They rush into the crowded arenas where everyone else is already fighting for scraps, thinking that this is the only way forward. But the Sigma male doesn't waste his energy there. He knows that real advantage doesn't come from following the same rules as everyone else. It comes from choosing your own playing field. He positions himself in spaces where the competition is blind, where the rules don't favor the masses, but instead allow him to operate on his own terms. Think of a workplace where employees are constantly vying to impress the boss, interrupting in meetings, raising their voices, battling for recognition. The Sigma male watches all of this quietly, without rushing to join in. While others exhaust themselves fighting for attention, he studies the flow of influence, spots the blind spots no one else notices, and moves with patience. Instead of shouting to be heard, he invests his energy in meaningful projects, in strategies that are harder to copy or challenge. He builds quietly, away from the noise. And by the time others even notice what he has been doing, he is already ahead, firmly established in a position they can't easily contest. Not because he shouted the loudest, nor because he fought harder, but because he carefully selected the arena where his strengths would matter most. In his personal life, this approach proves just as powerful. Think of social dynamics, where so many people scramble to dominate conversations, compete for attention, or control the narrative. Most individuals rush in to argue, eager to be noticed, desperate to win in the loudest space. But the Sigma man takes another route. He engages only when it truly matters, pouring his focus into areas that align with his deepest values and natural abilities. The energy he invests is deliberate, not scattered. And because it is so precise, it often goes unnoticed until its effects create a lasting impact. This is not avoidance, nor is it laziness. It is strategy. It is intelligence mixed with self-restraint. By refusing to fight where the noise is greatest, he saves himself from wasted energy, unnecessary conflict, and empty victories. He has no need for validation from those clamoring for the spotlight, because his benchmarks are his own. His triumphs are measured internally, not dictated by applause or recognition from the crowd. And it is precisely this mindset that allows him to operate with freedom and accuracy. While others drain themselves chasing visibility, he moves in silence, building influence and authority in spaces he has already claimed. By setting the terms of his own arena, the Sigma man guarantees that every effort counts, every move matters, every victory is authentic and untouchable. In a society addicted to noise and visibility, he thrives in deliberate impact. Number 10. He embraces change as his natural state, which makes him impossible to corner into a fixed identity. Most people cling desperately to the idea of who they think they are. They define themselves by a title, a job, a relationship, a routine. They equate stability with safety, believing that if nothing changes, they remain secure. But life doesn't work that way. Life changes, constantly, unpredictably. The Sigma man knows this, and so he doesn't resist it. He doesn't fight to hold still. Instead, he accepts change as inevitable, even necessary. It is part of his rhythm, part of his strength. Because of this, he cannot be trapped in one fixed identity. Picture someone who has worked in the same role for years. When the company shifts direction or leadership changes, they panic. Their entire sense of self was built around a job title that no longer exists. Suddenly, they are lost. The Sigma man faces the same situation with a completely different mindset. He understands that no role, no label, no circumstance defines him. The only things that define him are his choices, his values, and his skills. A breakup, a career shift, or even a move to a new city doesn't destroy him. It invigorates him. He adapts, grows, and sees opportunities where others see only endings. For him, change is not a threat. It's a tool. The same applies in relationships. People often try to box others in, labeling them the dependable friend, the supportive partner, the steady coworker, and many fall into those boxes without questioning them. But the Sigma man refuses to shrink into someone else's definition. He allows himself to evolve, showing new sides as life unfolds. Those who expect him to remain the same quickly realize he cannot be caged or controlled. This adaptability is not indecision, nor inconsistency. It is freedom. He knows that a rigid identity makes you predictable, and predictability makes you vulnerable. By staying fluid, he protects himself. He pivots, reinvents, and innovates without fear. Even in ordinary life, this flexibility gives him the edge. Where others get stuck in outdated routines, bound to roles that no longer serve them, he thrives in transition, moving to a new place, changing careers, navigating sudden challenges. He does so without collapse. He learns from each stage, shaping and reshaping himself continuously. For the Sigma man, change isn't disruption. Change is his baseline. He cannot be pinned down because he refuses to stand still. His identity is like a river, always flowing, impossible to freeze, impossible to dam. And that is why he remains untouchable in a world that constantly tries to define, confine, and control. Number 11. He knows that true control begins with the self, and he guards his inner world as if it were a fortress. Most people spend their lives trying to control everything outside of them. Other people, situations, outcomes. But the Sigma male recognizes the deeper truth. Real control begins from within. No external power, no position of influence can substitute for mastery over one's own emotions, thoughts, and choices. This is why he protects his inner world so carefully, treating it as sacred ground, a fortress that cannot be penetrated by gossip, manipulation, or social pressure. Imagine the person who reacts instantly to chaos. A friend insults them, and they lash out without thought. A colleague challenges them, and they respond in anger instead of strategy. That kind of impulsiveness is the opposite of the Sigma male's approach. He observes first. He reflects second. And only after understanding the situation does he act. He refuses to hand over his peace to anyone or anything. His calmness isn't passivity, it's power. His reactions are never random, and his emotions are never left unchecked. They are intentional, measured, and contained, giving him a rare clarity in moments when most people are blinded by their own impulses. In relationships, this approach becomes even more powerful. While many allow themselves to be molded by the moods, demands, or shifting expectations of others, the Sigma man stands apart. He can be deeply empathetic, fiercely loyal, and genuinely supportive, but never at the expense of his own equilibrium. He establishes the rules for his emotional investment and defends his boundaries with quiet authority. This makes him nearly impossible to pressure, manipulate, or bend. Think of it as a fortress. Outsiders may see the walls, the gates, even the open courtyard, but what lies within remains untouched unless he chooses to open it. Entry is not given lightly. He decides who can step closer, how far they are allowed to come, and what level of influence they will ever hold over him. This command over his inner life is what allows him to respond with strategy instead of raw reaction. Even in the daily grind, this gives him a distinct advantage. When a project collapses, he does not unravel. When conflict sparks, he does not lash out in rage. He approaches each situation with calm precision because his strength originates from within. He understands a simple truth. External chaos cannot break him unless he grants it permission. Real control, he knows, begins and ends with the self. By mastering his own thoughts, guarding his emotions, and protecting his boundaries with discipline, the Sigma man becomes untouchable. And in doing so, he reveals something profound. The most formidable power in life is not about dominating others, but about ruling one's own inner world. In a society where so many are easily swayed, this becomes his greatest advantage. Number 12. He creates leverage by knowing the exact moment to be present and the exact moment to disappear. Timing, for most people, is an afterthought. But for the Sigma man, it is everything. He understands that presence alone does not equal power, just as absence does not automatically mean weakness. True influence is born from the wisdom of knowing when to step forward and when to retreat. It is this understanding of timing that gives him a leverage others cannot anticipate, let alone counter. Picture a high-stakes meeting at work. Tension is thick, voices compete, and egos battle to dominate the room. Most people feel pressured to speak constantly, to defend every position, or to prove their worth. The Sigma man does not fall into that trap. He listens, observes, and chooses his moment carefully. When he speaks, his words land with weight precisely because he has waited for the right time. His silence has already sharpened the impact of his presence. At the same time, he recognizes when to withdraw, letting others overextend themselves, reveal their weaknesses, or burn out in their need for attention. By mastering the rhythm of showing up and stepping back, he shifts the balance of power without lifting his voice. This principle runs just as deep in his personal life. Some people spread themselves too thin, always available, always giving, always pouring themselves into others, until they are taken for granted. The Sigma man never makes that mistake. His presence is deliberate. His absence is equally deliberate. When he withdraws, it is not out of avoidance, but to preserve his balance and maintain perspective. His absence itself becomes a tool, reminding others that his presence is not guaranteed, and therefore, it is valuable. Even in social settings, this skill is clear. He doesn't force his way into every conversation, nor does he seek to dominate the room. Instead, he contributes where his input will matter most, and then he leaves before predictability dulls his impact. What people remember is not how long he stayed or how loud he was, but the resonance of his presence and the sharpness of his timing. The genius of this strategy is that it's invisible. Others may not even notice the precision behind his choices, yet they feel the consequences. Conversations tilt, decisions shift, and dynamics bend in his favor, all without struggle or noise. For him, presence and absence are not accidents, they are weapons. By mastering timing in this way, the Sigma man becomes both untouchable and unpredictable. He demonstrates that influence is not about constant effort or endless noise. It is about precision, acting at the right moment, and only the right moment. Final words and question. Have you ever noticed the men who move through life on their own terms? Untouchable, unbothered, while the rest of the world scrambles just to keep pace? That, right there, is the essence of the Sigma male. His strength doesn't come from controlling others. It begins with mastering himself. He knows his worth. He guards his mind like a fortress. He moves through life with precision, calm, and quiet confidence. He doesn't bend under pressure. He doesn't chase approval. And he refuses to waste his energy in the endless games that drain everyone else. In a world ruled by expectations, social hierarchies, and hidden agendas, the Sigma man stands apart by creating his own path. He watches carefully. He acts deliberately. He adapts when change comes, but never at the cost of his core identity. His independence isn't arrogance, it's clarity. His power isn't loud, it's subtle, invisible, until the moment it matters most. And here's the timeless lesson he embodies. Real strength isn't about manipulating or controlling others. It's about mastering yourself. It's about defending your boundaries, knowing your limits, and making decisions rooted in principles instead of pressure. Because once you guard your inner world, no one, not a boss, not a friend, not society, can take your influence away. So if you've ever felt trapped by the weight of expectations, if you've ever felt pushed to play a role that wasn't yours, take this to heart. Live on your own terms. Make your impact silently. Remain untouchable in a world that constantly tries to label and define you. Because true freedom, it always begins with the mastery of self. And from there, everything else falls into place. Sigma males remind us that independence, clarity, and quiet strength are more than just traits. They're a way of life. If this spoke to you, don't just walk away. Like, share, and subscribe to Epic Persona. Here, we uncover the mindset of men who move differently and why the world can never cage them. Now let me ask you, what's the one expectation of society you refuse to bow to?